Hello students, and welcome to COMM525 Online in the Summer 2 session. My name is Tim McGee. I am your instructor. This is one of my favorite classes to teach, so I am looking forward to it. There are 5 of you in the class this time, and it's a lovely number of people to be working with because we can give each other a lot of attention. This is probably the 5th time I have taught this course. I taught it most recently in the spring term and online, and so it's pretty fresh. One challenge that I'm facing is putting into 6.5 weeks what had previously been put into 13 weeks. And so I've already made the adjustments in modules, the modules for the first 2 meetings, maybe the first three meetings. And after that, I'm kind of leaving it until to see where we get before I schedule things in a way that might be either too slow or too fast. So what I want to do right now is just talk through the agenda. So in modules 0.0, 0.1, that's just background information about the course and how to get in touch with me if you have any questions. In the module 1.1, there's a document called the agenda. And so I'm just going to look at my printed version of it here and talk to you a little bit about what those things are. Then after you get to the agenda, each one of those items will be its own page. So in the first half of our first week, beginning on July 2, we will introduce ourselves, and you'll be introduced to the course by reviewing the syllabus and investigating the course modules. So the syllabus is there both as a Word document and as a Canvas page. So after today, the Canvas page version is the real version, because any adjustments that I need to make to the dates, I'm not going to go back and readjust the Word document and reload up it. So it's accurate for today, and as of next week, it will probably be inaccurate. But then what I will do is the Canvas page version of the syllabus that exists, any changes that I make to it between now and the end of our 6.5 week term, I will put it in red so it'll be easier to spot adjustments to the syllabus. First thing on the agenda is visual communication. Visual communication as an academic discipline will be discussed briefly in terms of the course description and objectives for this particular graduate course. So there is a module in there called 6 Theories of Visual Communication. And what I'm doing is I'm borrowing a PDF from a scholar by the name of Philip Lubier, because he did a very nice job of representing very succinctly 6 primary theories. So that PDF is there. You can download that and look at it. But then also what I've done is recorded a little video talking about the 6 theories and sort of our approach to them. And we will not treat all of them with equal amount of time or energy. Some will be given a little more focus than others. Visual literacy is a very important topic in this course. We'll discuss briefly the concept of visual literacy, placing it in a historical, cultural, and political context. So you are all familiar with the notion of verbal or written literacy, and so visual literacy is similar to that. There are some people, some visual professionals, who object to the term visual literacy because they're saying, okay, you have privileged reading and writing in a way that sort of makes looking at images or producing images sort of gives it a second-class status. And that question of the second-class status of the image is definitely a very big issue in the academy because we now have a 2,500-year history of written communication in which writing and reading have had a privileged place. And at different times and different places in our history, images were given sometimes a second-class status, sometimes worse than that. There are actual religious traditions, including the Judeo-Christian tradition and the Muslim tradition, that basically think of images as the devil's work, graven images that are just not allowed. And so we'll talk about that throughout the term. But when we talk about visual literacy in this course, it's important to consider it not just as a consumer of visuals. So if you had taken a course in art history and then you went to an art museum, you would probably see and appreciate more things in the paintings that you looked at than someone who hadn't taken a art history course, because you are attuned to what is there to be seen. But the other side beyond the reading side of visual literacy is the writing side. So what ability do you have to make images? And so for you to be visually literate, you not only need to know how to interpret images that you encounter, but to some degree, you want to have some control on the actual production, manipulation, editing, transfer of images. So that's the second part of visual literacy. Perception and visual communication, the eye and the brain. So I have, I think, 2 or 3 videos loaded up into Canvas. If you were an adherent to behaviorist psychology, you would have a notion of how vision works. As a stimulus comes into your eye, and then you respond to that stimulus. It'd be pretty simple. And it turns out that it is far more complex than that. And one of the areas of complexity is not that you just receive impressions onto the back of your eye and your brain sort of just understands them. You actually make the images in your brain. And so we're going to talk quite a bit about the degree to which what you bring to the image in terms of your own background, your own history, your own understanding determines what you see. And then that's quite relevant in terms of business communication, because if we're talking about images that are created for the purposes of advertising or for the purpose of getting people to understand or adhere to a particular vision of a brand, etc. It's not the case that someone could just design a logo and it's going to have this effect upon the audience. It's going to have this effect upon one audience, a different effect upon another audience, because each audience member is making their perception of that visual stimulus. Intro to visual communication in the news. I build a module of visual communication in the news items because almost every day, I'd say every day, there's some more visual communication in the news. And so what I do, most of the things that I'll be adding there are coming from the New York Times, which I read on a daily basis, but some of them might actually come from the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is another publication that I read. And so these are, to me, fascinating, and a lot of times they're quite important, particularly in terms of business communication, because there's an awful lot of rapidly changing technology and fairly rapidly changing law regarding images. And so whenever there's visual communication in the news, I will put that link into it. So there will be one that right now has only 1 entry. By the time we're done with 6.5 weeks of this class, there'll probably be 25 or 30. But what you'll also find are the visual communication in the news links from last semester and 3 semesters that preceded that. So I leave the old news up there because some of these things were rather significant events that are continuing to have consequences today, even 1, 2, and 3 years after it was news. You're going to be asked to create an autobiography of preparation for this course. So you look at the syllabus and then you ask yourself, how prepared am I to participate in this course and thrive in this course? And I'm going to ask you to do that, just a short piece of writing. I'm going to ask you to do it in 30 minutes. You'll be submitting it just to me so your other classmates don't get to see it. And I do this for several reasons, including the idea that this is a graduate course, so you should be able to produce good, clear, concise prose in what's called sometimes standard English, but a more accurate term would be standard written academic English. So basically, you just take 30 minutes and say, I'm well prepared for this course because I did this and this and this and this, or I'm not well prepared because I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know this. Mine is up there as a sample, so you can see how I responded to this challenge. I feel, if I were in your shoes and just coming into the class, I would have been quite well prepared because of accidents of my history, etc. So it doesn't matter how well or ill prepared you are, but I just want to know how well or ill prepared you feel, because what I then present to you as a group, I don't want to pitch it too high where basically you don't understand some things that I'm talking about, or too low where you already know that. So why am I wasting your time with that information, right? And then that autobiography of preparation for the course, you're actually going to use that later on. This time when you do it, you're just going to make it out of words. You're going to spend 30 minutes, maybe that's 300, 500 words, okay? But then what you're going to do is going to make a visual version of the autobiography, autobiography of preparation for this course, and that's going to be one of your first visual design assignments. And then you're going to get to the visual affordances of social media log, ASML. Affordances is a term that was developed by some people who are in probably the constructivist school of visual communication. And it means what you can do with something or what something allows you to do. So most generally, a door allows you to enter or exit a space. A lock allows you to prevent people from entering it or to keep yourself locked inside of something. A pen affords writing. A pen would also afford stabbing. You could stab someone with a pen. So you take that thing and what can you do with it? So now when we talk about visual affordances, I want to talk about the visual affordances of different social media. So obviously Instagram has a certain number of visual affordances. Facebook has become much more visual since it was first launched. Twitter has become much more visual. Originally it was just 144 characters. Now it's twice as many characters, but you can use TwitPics and TwitVids. And so all of the different social media are becoming more and more visual. So what you're going to do is you are going to keep a log of 2 different social media that you participate in. If you don't participate in, you're going to have to join 2. Odds are you already participate in 2, 3, 4. You pick a couple, and you're just going to keep track of it. And I expect you to enter into this log maybe twice a week. So you're going to have at least 13 entries. At the end of the session, then you're going to write a brief, maybe 500-word summary of what did you notice about the visual affordances of the different social media that you participate in. And there's some specifics in terms of you to think about the ratio of text to images, etc., etc. So that's something that you will soon start. So to foster that, I've created, you each have your own individual ASML page. These are set up so that anybody can write to them. So you can write to your own page. One of your classmates could write to your page. One of your classmates could go in and delete everything you've written on your page. But because history is available, we would all know who had deleted your stuff. So surely that would be not a wise thing to do. So the idea is you're just going to pay attention to the affordances, the visual affordances of a couple social media that you participate in, so that at the end of the term, you can then write a 500-word summary of what did you notice. Okay. Also in this first module, there are a link to free open source image manipulation programs and trial downloads of Adobe products. So there are 2 Adobe products that could be of benefit to you. If you don't already know how to use Photoshop or Illustrator, this could be an opportunity for you to learn a little about Photoshop and Illustrator. This is not a course that sort of specializes in that, but you would get enough instruction to do some basic things in either one of those programs. Those are programs that cost money. You can get free trial downloads, so if you time it properly, you would be able to have it so that it was available to you when you had to fulfill the visual design project that would benefit from Photoshop, later on the visual design project that would benefit from Illustrator. It turns out there are free open source equivalents, so you can get GIMP, which is a image manipulation program like Photoshop. It can do almost everything that Photoshop does, and it's totally free. You can download it onto your Windows machine or your Mac, and it's yours for free to use. And similarly, instead of Illustrator, there's one called Inkscape. So these are available to you, and I introduced them to you at the end of the first module, so that if you wanted to have them and start working with them, they would be available to you. So that's the agenda for meeting number 1. Here it is Monday. Basically, if this were a face-to-face course, we would meet, ideal times of meeting would be Monday and Thursday, because then you would have 2 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, between the next meeting, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the next meeting. So, as I said, one of the challenges is for me to pace the content that I have multiple times done over 13 weeks and get it now to smoothly fit into 6.5 weeks. There will be a couple of glitches. There'll be a couple of places where at the last minute I'll say, oh, I meant that you should have read this now or done this now. But so far, this first week, you're going to have a couple of quizzes. One quiz is on a video, the other quiz is on some reading. You have a short writing assignment, and then you are going to be asked to pass judgment on which is the most relevant route and the most irrelevant route for this discipline of visual communication. So that should get us started. In the contact information, you can see that you can, if you use the email that's built into Canvas, that's one way to get to me, or if you just use my regular email account at Writer. The phone number that you'll find in the syllabus is my cell phone number. I no longer have a landline, and I have a phone here in my adjunct office at Writer, but if I'm not in the office, I might not get the message. So feel free, you can call me directly to my cell phone. You could also text to my cell phone, but basically I'm not much of a texter, so sometimes I look at my text once a week or so. So if you really want to get in touch with me right away, a telephone or an email is more likely to be successful than a text message. So I think that's all I have to say at this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video, and then it is my habit to take the videos and I upload them into YouTube, into my Writer YouTube account, and then I embed them in Canvas because that makes them most easily accessible and also has the best sort of video quality. So with no further ado, I look forward to meeting you online. Perhaps I'll meet some of you face-to-face if you're around the campus. I will be on campus a lot. I'm teaching 2 different online courses here in summer 2, and I also have a goal of losing quite a bit in the fitness center. So if you wanted to get in touch with me or wanted to meet me face-to-face, it's no problem whatsoever for us to arrange such a thing on rather short order. So again, I'm happy to be back here. I'm looking forward to meeting you, and I hope you enjoy this course as much as I enjoy it. And I can say fairly confidently that the students in the past 4 or 5 iterations of it have also felt that it was a pretty good course. So talk to you later.